Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Gaming the System with me, Alexia. I'm joined by my very good friend of many, many years, Mr. Van Verman, sir. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you for starting up, doing all the legwork. I've done nothing other than drag myself in front of my computer and my microphone. But yes, interested to see our chats today. Should be good.
I mean, we always have a good time. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
No, yeah, you're right.
We've even got a running order and everything. We actually
Oh,
planned this out.
professional.
I gotta say, I've been listening to some podcasts over the last couple of weeks, and I gotta tell you, a lot of preamble. I don't like
Mm.
preamble.
Okay, fine. Straight into it then.
Trim the fat.
I
That's
don't
how we
mind.
do it here. So you have 30 seconds. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Well, I guess in my Van Berman alter ego, although I don't know if it necessarily is too much of an alter ego, I do YouTube basically, and that's about it. I would suggest. And I make gaming videos and have done for the last, I don't know, 14 years. And before that, I made Final Fantasy music videos. So, like as like an early adopter of YouTube, so to speak. So yeah, that's about it.
He's a very modest man,
Yeah, that's right.
very subtle. And don't
Go on then.
worry,
You better do an intro as well, just so everyone is reacquainted.
everyone knows who I am. No, you're right, I should.
Good.
Hey everyone, my name's Alexia. I used to run a YouTube channel 12 years ago.
Mm,
Oh my god, was it really 12 years ago, Will?
that sounds about right. Yeah.
2012.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, that's too long, man. That's way too
Mm.
long. God, I was 14 when I started doing that. I'm 26 now. Gotten old before our time.
Oh, maybe.
God. Anyway, yeah, I'm a musician. I'm a journalist. Google me. You'll find out more. Just my first name. That'll all you need to know. Cue the music. So, Will, I don't know if you've heard, but the Silent Hill 2 remake came out. Bloober Team actually made a
Oh
good game for once.
no, I did not hear about it, but I'm yes, can't wait. I don't know if it's already out. If not, then great. Can't wait for it to come out. And if it is already out, then I can't wait to play it.
Came out yesterday.
Oh goodness, I was busy.
So, yeah, so I actually got a review code for Silent Hill 2. I didn't actually get to review it because life of an editor, you pretty much don't ever get to write anything. That's just part of the course.
Well, yeah.
A lot of
What's it
data.
out on? Everything, or is it just
PS5 and PC.
okay? All right.
Yeah, yeah, but I got a code. I played about 3 4 hours worth, and I've come to the conclusion. Bearing in mind I'm like a third the way through the game,
Mm.
I still don't like Silent Hill 2,
Oh, okay.
like at all. I I think it's massively overrated.
Uh,
I
mm,
mean, for real. Like, you have this amazing setting. This guy, James Sutherland, he's invited to this creepy, foggy, smoky area because his dead wife tells him to, and against his better judgment, he actually goes along with it, walking around. It's spooky. People are jumping at you, you're smacking them with sticks. You get a gun, you get a shotgun, you do all these cryptic puzzles. And I'm just thinking, like, this is fine. But Bloober Team, I guess the fact that Bloober Team have essentially never really made a good game in their career, to be honest. I mean, they did Layers of Fear, which wasn't particularly good. And then
mm.
another kind of like walking simulator horror game. And now they've gone, okay, we have the Silent Hill 2 license. They've done a ground up remake. Not as good as Dead Space 2023. Not as good as Resident Evil 4 remake, but still like pretty serviceable.
Okay. I'll be honest, I didn't know the name of that studio before, but then you mentioned some of the names, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know those games. So
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
It just seems like the people that seem to really love Silent Hill 2, they're either the people that grew up playing the original and they
Mm.
liked it because it's like, hey, it's like I remember when I was a kid, or they've never played the original. They have a kind of lower threshold for what's actually good when it comes to horror games and will accept anything that's mechanically stable. I mean, look at Amnesia. The Dark Descent, good game. Machine for Pigs, bad game. The slop trough of walking simulator horror games that exploded for 10 years after that. Outlast, another big one. Outlast 2, a game people pretend to like. Getting all the way now. Silent Hill 2 at least has competent gameplay, but it's still not fun to play. Pulling up a map every 2 seconds, being this guy which sluggishly kind of runs around with his bat. Not the most exciting. Don't know what they were thinking with that really. It's just kind of clunky.
Would you say that though the old school horror games, obviously like PlayStation One era, are like fun? I don't think I've ever thought of those games as fun. I think to me they've always been like a test of endurance. You
Yeah,
know, a
I think
test of your wits, a test of your nerves, and like fighting against. Like not only do you have to fight against the environment and what the developers have put in, you also have to fight against the controls, right, and the atmosphere and all the rest of it. So I think the, and I could be wrong, the people go into horror games for the fun element of it.
I mean that's a great point. But moreover, if an experience isn't engaging, if you're fighting with the controls, if you're fighting with the game, that's not me being scared. That's just gonna piss me off. You know, like
Mm,
Resident Evil 4, the original Resi 4, great game. You know, landmark title for the survival horror action
mm,
series. Spawned Resi 5 that wasn't as good. Resi 6 that was terrible. Basically killed the franchise for a long time. But Resi 4 had a big problem, which was whenever enemies jumped out at you, you had to stand completely still and shoot them, and it killed the pacing. I know what it means. Oh, you're vulnerable when you're on the offensive. It's a kind of a layer to it. I understand that. But Resi 4 remake and Dead Space came 4 years after and let you move and shoot. The over the shoulder horror game kind of reintroduced that kind of form. However, both those games got remade last year, coincidentally. I don't know. They both improved on the original's gameplay exponentially. The original Silent Hill 2, for anyone who hasn't played it or seen footage or whatever, it's laughably easy. It's a laughably easy game. It's an isometric game with fixed camera angles. I believe they're either pre-baked in or rendered backgrounds like you'd see on like the early PS2 games. Except the combat, as soon as you get a gun, like a pistol or a rifle or what have you, you can pretty much just auto aim, like snap to aim. Everything's done for you. Whereas now, at least you have to aim. At least you have to dodge with the melee weapon. There actually is a degree of combat. I just feel as though Bloober Team has not created it very well. I don't really agree with like, oh, it's hard because we made the controls difficult to fight with. I don't think that's a great kind of way to build tension. I'd rather be scared diegetically than scared in a way that takes me out of the experience, where I'm just going to get pissed off, put the controller down, and play something else. Your thoughts?
yeah, no, I mean, I can see that. I think that probably was like uh, more of a barrier when you like consider the originals, right? I can't remember what Silent Hill 2 came out on now. Was that a
PS2.
PS2 game? Yeah.
Very
Okay.
early PS2. It was like
Yeah.
2001.
Fine. So, it's fair to say that control schemes and like norms for easier and more accessible control, um, yeah, schemes, movements, whatever, are much greater now than they were back when those games would have come out. Maybe not the PS2 because you still had the joystick, the DualShock, right? The analogs, which
Since 1999, yes.
yeah, but it was still quite that we still hadn't agreed on the correct format to use them at that point. I think as like an industry. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with no, there's nothing wrong with having a better controller scheme. I think that there's a certain charm that the older games have with their um, with the tank controls, right? Um, that do add to that level of a game inherently being more tricky and difficult and adding tension. Whereas I don't think we as in gamers, if you like, TM, have the same patience that we maybe had, particularly as children, and also particularly as the technology at the time allowed for. And yeah, I can see how you're right. The horror franchises or series, I guess, has gone through a bit of a um, like a mini renaissance, I suppose, but it is quite reliant on all of its old and existing IPs to do so. Um, you know, from like the action horror, which I don't ever really think works personally. And then it brings me on to, I guess it makes me think about the wider point of, did any of these things actually need remaking? Like, are we just remaking games because we don't have any good ideas anymore? I don't necessarily think that's the point for Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2, for example. I don't think it's correct in that point. But like, did Resident Evil 4 need remaking? Did it need to be remade? Did Dead Space need to be remade?
It's an
Um,
interesting point. I mean, when you think about Dead Space as a series, so this franchise has been dormant for 10 fucking years, right? Dead Space 3 came out. I liked it. I still like it. I don't care what anyone thinks. I enjoy that game. But it came out February 8th, 2013. I know. I bought it day one. I went to fucking Blockbuster opening night and I bought it. One of the last things I ever did in Blockbuster. I think it closed down like a couple of weeks after that. Weird times when you had to physically go to a store, buy a game on a disc, and bring it home to play it. Now it's all about digital distribution. Now you just go on Steam or CD keys or whatever and get your game
not
that way.
not sponsored, but happy for a sponsorship.
You can't see, but I'm rubbing my hands together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But when it came to Dead Space, a game as a whole series that I love very much. The original game I like, the second game I fucking adore. Third game I like. But the first game, I said to myself, I'm like, look, this does not need a fucking remake. EA Motive announced we're remaking Dead Space, ground up, ray tracing. We're gonna bring in all these like new mechanical differences, like alternative fires, how you're gonna have like real darkness, absence of light because of reflected light in the environments, upgraded enemy AI, the way that the plasma cutter hit detection works, all different. Okay, that's set dressing. But then I went back and replayed the original game, and I wrote an article about this like 2 years ago. How I didn't think Dead Space needed to be remade. Then I played it, and I was like, hey, this game's kind of clunky in a lot of ways. And the remake was infinitely better across the board. They made smart changes with the story. Isaac now actually speaks, whereas in the original he was a mute protagonist. So he has a
Hmm.
lot more agency in the story. They cut out some of the fat from the backtracking of the Ishimura. You can use the tram system now to go through the ship, having to manually walk through. And the final boss is way fucking better. So they made some good changes. But with Silent Hill 2, I feel like they, again, I haven't obviously finished it, but from what I've played, and when I remember the original game, it just feels like they kind of took the cliff notes of what was good about it, kept the essence and like the aesthetics, the story, the voice acting, delivery. That's all very very similar. But they tried to like shoehorn in modern design, but it's still got that jank to it.
Okay.
Like if you're gonna clean it up, you gotta clean it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. And I guess, obviously, I don't know too much about it, but I know that the like Resident Evil 2 and 3, for example, their remakes have been quite well received, and they've had like really like a big step change, right, in
Oh
improvement.
yeah, they were way different. I mean, look at Resident Evil 2, night and
Mm,
day to the original game. Like Resident Evil 2 on the PS1, it's an okay game. Nemesis, it's a pretty good game, but Resi 2, very limited. And they essentially took what worked, modernized it completely in the way that they did Resident Evil 0, the Resident Evil remake on GameCube, the 2002 one, And they went,
Mm.
okay, we'll do that. We'll keep the essence of it, but we'll make it more action focused in a way that's sympathetic to the player instead of against the player. And then it came to, as you say, Resi 4, where it arguably didn't ever need to happen because they'd already made the player first, changes with the control scheme, changes with how the missions work, how the aiming works. They'd already modernized it enough in those 5 years to then go, fresh coat of paint, give us £70, please.
Yeah, yeah. The audacity to, particularly with Dead Space, right, to make you pay for it twice.
And also the fact that games are
Uh,
$70 now. Why is that the standard?
mm.
$70.
Well,
Crazy.
this is why I buy most of mine from cdkeys.com.
Sponsorship, please.
Sponsorship. It's a fair point. I don't really have an answer for that. I think you look at. I guess you just have to look at inflation. I guess, like, how much does like 2 or 4 pints of milk cost now compared to when we were paying £40 for games? Like, there's a lot more. It just, yeah, things happen, I guess.
I've seen
Um,
inflation happen in real time. The Cravendale milk used to be £1. Now it's £2.75. Who made that decision? Ridiculous.
yeah.
I have to buy the own brand filtered milk now. And even that's £2.
Yeah, you can't get away from it. But yeah, I think it's more for me. It's not. It is about the price is obviously a barrier, of course, but it's also the expectation on the player as well, because that £70 is not the game of the year, every DLC, and a nice little statue. It's the entry price to download the files for the game that you don't own and
I
have
think
no
that's
way of being able to keep if they decide to take it off the servers.
I think
So,
that's the worst part. Like digital
mm,
distribution. I mean, I know, I use Steam, you use
mm,
Steam,
mhm,
Epic
mhm.
as well, what have you. That's how PC games are now. We've accepted that for the last 15 years. That's by the by.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
one goes to the store anymore, buys games on disc, puts them into their computer to play them off a CD-ROM. They haven't had physical games for at least 10 years, as far as I'm aware. However, if you don't own anything, is it stealing if they take it away from you? I don't know if you've heard about this, but there was a
Mhm.
law passed in California that deemed that the PlayStation Store in California and likely to be the rest of the US, potentially the rest of the world incoming, says you're buying a license to a game. You're not buying the game, and your access to said license can be revoked at any time. So you're basically paying to rent indefinitely until they decide, let's take the service down. Look at fucking, what's the name of that piece of shit game that came out? Look at fucking Concord. People that
Mm.
bought that game 2 weeks, fine, they refunded people, didn't have to though. 2 weeks later, shut it down. Little Big
I
Planet
don't.
3,
Mm.
that's getting shut down. And anyone that bought it, supposedly access will remain indefinitely. Supposedly. But that's getting wiped from servers, wiped away. You're going to see pre-owned copies of that game skyrocket, where the scalpers are going to win, and the publishers are going to just fuck over anyone that ever wants to play that game. And you can make the excuse, oh, it's been enough time. But then if I go to my old box of Xbox games, Genesis games, Super Nintendo games, like whatever, PS2 games, and I dust off the jewel case, and I put that disc in the console, and I press play, I have the game. It'll work forever until the technology physically stops. But we've become so ingrained and so used to the fact that the age of ownership is over. We don't own anything anymore. Look at the services. Look at Game Pass, PlayStation Game Catalog, Xbox, PC Pass on Xbox on online, EA Play, Ubisoft Plus, all this bullshit which exists to say, hey, our games are coming out. They're 70 quid. They're more expensive than they've ever been. Or you can pay us a monthly rolling fee, play them, delete them off your hard drive, never think about them again. Or buy the game and have it one day maybe revoked from you. I don't know if you remember Ubisoft with, I think was it called the Crew? They took the crew away from everyone's digital libraries like a few months ago.
I don't know. Didn't hear about that.
It happened. It
I
fucking
can, I
happened.
believe. I believe it. Yeah.
And they wonder why Ubisoft is struggling so much.
No, I think it might be fairly obvious why Ubisoft is struggling so much.
They put out some slop games.
Well, they've basically been making the same game for the last 15 years, right? So, yeah, there's that, along with all the other dodgy stuff that I've spoken about several times. But, you know,
Skull
it's
and
beyond,
Bones, anyone?
yeah, it's beyond repair at this point, I think, for me anyway.
I love the fact that with Assassin's Creed Shadows, they were like, all right, we have this amazing samurai game that's coming out. It's coming out in November, guys. 15th of November. Who's ready? We go, hey, this game doesn't look quite finished. Oh, you're right. Okay. Oh, what's that? Sony's putting out Ghost of Yotei, the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. That's gonna be really good. Everyone's gonna like universally love it. Let's delay our Assassin's Creed Samurai game to compete with this one. I mean, at this point, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. Because there's no way
Hmm.
Shadows is going to be anywhere as good as Ghost of Yotei.
It would seem to be unlikely. Yeah.
It would.
I never say never, right? But yeah, I would suggest it's unlikely that it would be.
I would
Um,
suppose so.
on the point though you make about not owning things and therefore we have these subscription services, like and I'm sure that for some people that may make more sense, right? There's a game that I really want to play. I only have time to play casually, maybe, and therefore it's just spending that £7 and just having the 1 month or whatever it is, 7.99, 10. You can get like new intro offers, can't you? You've not been subscribed for a bit anyway. Like that might make sense in those edge cases. Um, because if you're not going to own the game anyway, well, I'm only going to play it for a month and then it's gone, right? But yeah, there's definitely seems to be a lack of like actual coherent, um, uh, I guess like pathways for people who want to approach it differently, right? And the people I've just spoke about are probably like edge cases anyway, rather than the norm. And
It's true.
therefore, if you want to actually own something that isn't sat on a Steam server somewhere and can be taken off, or heaven forbid, one of the other ones, right? That's not as well established. Um, like, what is your only alternative? Like, you buy it, but then you have to also then download it illegally, so then it's cracked, and therefore you don't have the built-in DRM, even if it's just the Steam DRM to worry about, because you then could play that. You could, if you got a Blu-ray drive or whatever, you could burn it to a Blu-ray or put it on a USB stick, and that would be the same as owning that physical disc, like you've mentioned,
It's true.
or cartridge or whatever, right? But it's therefore you're then paying for it, but then having to do the illegal stuff in inverted commas to actually be able to then own it. So you actually own it if you do the wrong thing, and don't if you do the quote unquote right thing. So yeah, it's tricky.
It is. And just going on about DRM for a second, I mean, I just find it
Mm.
absurd. A lot of the time, games with de novo, legally purchased games that run de
Mm.
novo, run worse than the cracked versions you get for free. Every time. And they keep shoehorning this garbage software into all the games to try and get around piracy. But the thing is, if you tell anyone on Skid Row, or Pirate Bay, or Empress, or CDM, or Fit Girl, or whatever,
Mm.
you can't go doing that. It's going to make them want to do it 3 times as much. That's how it happens. That's how it happens.
Yeah, I mean, for some people it's a challenge, or for people it's a pride thing, right? So, or pride and a challenge thing. So, and there's some very talented people that work on getting around those protections.
Oh,
I
God
think,
bless them.
yeah, well, I mean, they've made games that are unplayable playable, which I think is the ultimate like gazump to the argument of not wanting to pirate, right? I think, or not being able to potentially.
It goes back to
I
the
have.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go on.
I was going to say that I do have some sympathy with the idea of some sort of DRM, but I think that for me, if I was a AAA game publisher, I suppose the thing I would be thinking is, um, even if I was going to have something like de novo in there, which is very difficult to crack, and some games still haven't been that have been worked on. I think for me it would be more of a case of actually it just needs to be timed. The first month in there we take the hit with poor performance and everything else, and then a month later we can release an update where we take it out and say, oh, everyone, here's a new patch and everything runs great now because we've taken out the anti-pyro thing. I mean, cynically, I think that's what I would do, because then you stop the FOMO bit, or you get to have the FOMO bit, right? Because people will still buy day one or buy day two or day three or whatever, because they realize it's not going to be accessible early on and everyone will be wanting to play it straight away. And therefore you protect your product, right, for that initial period. But then ultimately you set like a hard deadline of like a month, I would suggest. And then you know that it is going to be pirated, but eventually it's going to be pirated anyway. And then you get people buying it in the interim, right?
I think that's a very good way of going about it.
But you absolutely commit to taking it out. I think is like the key bit for me in all of that. That it does get removed. Like why we should have games that are 10 years old with still de novo in there is beyond me. Like, give it up.
I think it's more so as well an argument for game preservation.
Mm,
I mean, how many times are we going to be bought and sold the same old games over and over again because the old versions just don't work anymore? It happens all the time. I mean, fuck, we're now finally getting Red Dead Redemption on PC, but it's been so long, I don't care now.
But it'd been on. Oh, the first one.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know that one wasn't out on PC. That's interesting.
That's
That's
true.
news for me.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had a fucking special edition of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, for fuck's sake. That was the thing like 3 months ago. Some bullshit 3DO visual. Yeah. Genuinely, they made a reboot of that. Same with Night Trap. So, oh, you want to play these games? No. No, I don't. I'll pay you to not make me play them, in fact.
It is genuinely that, and this is a totally separate topic and not on what any of what we'd be talking about, which just come into my head, is like one of the things that is nice though is when you find out that like that a game actually did come out on PC all those years ago and you can still play it on PC. I was talking with one of my friends recently. We were talking about just the Lord of the Rings games that have come out, right? And obviously there's a whole thing with like Battlefield Middle-earth, it being like a cult classic, and the only way you can get it now is by literally illegally, if you want to play it online, is you either have to like illegally download it and then mod it, which you have to do, or if you have the disc, you still have to download like new files and stuff. But it is still online, which is quite frankly incredible. But I didn't realize that they actually made a CD-ROM version, I should say, of the Return of the King. So I now have the Return of the King. My friend owns it on actual disc. But there was a lot of problems with it, and it's been preserved online and has several mods as well that make it more fit to play in the modern era, if you like. And at some point, me and him are planning on doing a like couch co-op replay through of that all these years later.
Watch out for that one, people.
Simple. I don't think it's going to be on the channel. It wasn't. It was more just going to be like a casual thing. But the fact that I didn't even know that existed, right? And yet it is, and it's probably I've only played like the first couple of levels just to try it out, and it's like it's as good as I remember. So that is quite a nice thing to see from time to time. Stuff like that comes up.
Absolutely. I was quite impartial to the modern ones. The Monolith ones were quite good. Was it Shadow of War?
Yeah, Shadow of War and
Shadow of Mordor.
Shadow of Mordor, yeah.
I thought they were fun. They were fun.
Yeah. But once again, like they're not trying to be the Lord of the Rings, are they? They've gone the aspect of taking the good bits from the lore that people want to see, and then made their own complete thing. Like it's not trying to be the Lord of the Rings, is it at all? It doesn't even have Lord of the Rings in the title. So
probably for the best.
They went about it the right way.
Absolutely. I like when they do expanded universe things, but they make it its own beast. How many times are we going to play through the same fucking 3 movies? You know what I mean? It's like, Lord of the Rings, War in the North. Lord of the Rings, Return to Moria. Who cares? Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, Gollum, anyone?
Yeah, Gollum. Yeah, but I did play the Moria one. That was I know these games are more are better with friends, but I'm also the believer that if you've got a good group of friends, you can play any game right together, and it will be a fun and enjoyable time. So
You
yeah,
could play with a dead badger as long as you got friends around.
well, yeah, I guess that's a sentiment, I suppose.
Who gets to share the stick?
Yeah, take it in turns. Yeah.
While I've got you, there is
Mm.
something I'd like to discuss.
Is it on the running order, or is it just? Oh, I mean, we're
Yeah,
pretty much freeballing it now. So
it's on the running order, man.
yeah, cool. Go
This
for
is
it.
why we write things down.
Go for it.
I got bullet points in front of me. This is a burly list right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
Professional. Industry professional.
I mean, you are. That's the point.
That's the worst part. I do this for money and I'm still not good at it. God. I think, and I wrote an article for this for PC Gamer about 6 months ago. I want to know your thoughts because I think
Mm,
you might
cool.
disagree.
Yeah.
I think there are too many handheld PCs now.
I think you're right.
I think there are too fucking many.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay, the Steam Deck, which was good. The Steam Deck OLED, which is the best one. The Asus ROG Ally, which is fine. The ROG Ally X, which is pretty good. Lenovo Legion Go, which is bad. MSI Claw, which is terrible.
Yeah.
And there's fucking 15 more coming. Fucking Zotac's got one on the way. For
Well,
fuck's
there's also
sake.
all the GPD Win ones as well on there previously. It's
All
sort
the
of their sort
slop
the
ones.
pioneers, right? Oh, they were. I think it's really difficult to judge quite a small company trying to innovate. So I have a lot of sympathy for them. But they did release about 100 different versions of basically the same thing. So,
Aya Neo do that all the fucking time.
oh yes, I know.
It's
I
like,
knew as
hey,
well.
we
Yeah,
got one that looks like a DS. We have one that slides up. We've got one with an expandable controller, and they're all like 900 quid.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Too much money, not good enough performance,
No.
um, not very ergonomic as well. I would say.
It's why I
By
think
looks
the
of
Steam Deck OLED wins, right? You buy a Steam Deck OLED.
it.
Most games you have on the Steam Deck OLED will work. Most games.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
straight up unsupported. Fine.
I've had pretty good success
Yeah.
with most things.
Anything verified, that's a given. Most playable, normally fine.
Yeah,
You know what you're
even
getting.
yeah, even some that don't work do work because they just need you need to be slightly tech savvy in order to get them working, but they're usually very quick fixes, which is nice.
If only there was some kind of YouTube series that analyze
There was,
games
there was one of them, wasn't
that
there?
don't
Uh,
officially work on Steam Deck.
uh,
Some kind of Steam Deck dossery, you may say.
almost, yeah. I think I did end up doing 120 games, I think, in total, something like that. Anyway,
You
it
had
was
good
pretty.
success
It
with that,
wasn't
though,
too bad.
man.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
I
Very
like,
interesting.
oh yeah, I like the Steam Deck OLED a lot. I love it.
Mm.
I use it maybe every 3, 4 months.
Well, it's kind of a situational thing, isn't it? I think, and depending on what kind of part of life you're in as well, I think it definitely has more advantage than others. You know, for example, in the actual handheld gaming thing when I was traveling a lot more for work last year compared to this year. It was brilliant, you know, because I was able to carry on my Starfield playthrough in the hotel,
My
which
condolences.
oh, I mean, I enjoyed Starfield. But yeah, you know, it was good enough where I could at least progress through some of the story or just do my mining on the planet or my shipbuilding, you know, that kind of thing, which is all basically you want to do when you want the continuation, right, of playing through your game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get on with Starfield, like at all. But then I don't think I've ever finished a Bethesda game in my life.
Well, that might be
I beat
part of it.
Fallout New Vegas again earlier this year, but that's Obsidian, because Obsidian know how to make games.
What ending did you go for?
Mr. House ending,
Yeah. Oh, Mr. House alive or Mr. House dead?
dead.
Yeah.
In fact,
That's only.
I'll talk you through my whole convoluted Fallout New Vegas ending.
Oh, go on then.
It'll take exactly 60 seconds.
Go on.
It's pretty simple. All right, you get the platinum ship. You go in. You kill Benny. You go to Caesar. Caesar tells you, I have this compound in my lair. You have to side with me and we'll take on Mr. House. You agree. You go and see Mr. House. You tell Mr. House about Caesar and the Legion, and that you can go and single handedly destroy it from the inside because there is a compound set to destroy him. Very simple. Play both sides against each other. Go join the NCR. Tell the NCR you have dirt on both factions. There you go. Okay, great. We'll have the full backing of the NCR. You want to go take on the Legion. You want to go take on House. We'll storm on them both. Do these menial tasks. Decide you don't want to do the menial tasks. Back away from the NCR. Go through Caesar's Legion, Kaiser's Legion, whatever they call him. Go through
Yeah.
again. Find the secret lair. Don't do what Kaiser wants. Decide you're going to go hostile, blow up the lair, destroy all of it. Destroy the automatons, destroy the machine that creates more of them, wipe it all out completely. Then go back to House, which is now hostile against you, take on all the automatrons, kill House, completely burn his 38 Lucky Stripe mall, his hotel, his empire to the ground, then go back to Caesar, take him on, and then the NCR claim the victory at the end, so you throw him off a fucking cliff.
Yes, General Oliver has to go off the dam. That's the only canonical ending.
That's how I played New Vegas last time. That's player agency. I made the game deliberately harder on myself out of spite.
Yeah, well, but you have the option of doing so, right? Which is part of it.
What kind of options do you have in Starfield besides yes, sarcastic yes, yes but no, and no but eventually yes?
I do find that most. Sorry, hold on. Hope you can still hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I do find that most games are basically now no, but eventually yes.
The
Right.
fact that the first hour of Starfield is I'm happy, I'm mining away, I'm having a grand old time, and then oh, you touched a rock, get out of here, Dusty, you're not a miner anymore. Go on this big mission with this guy who's a space pirate. Here's my ship and my leg and my snowmobile. Go enjoy the outer sphere. Go on a great adventure. Why can't I just say no and shoot them and then go
Yeah.
off on my merry way and have a great time flying around doing something else? In New Vegas, you're shot in the head by Benny. You chase him through the strip. You don't have to do that. You can just go, you know what? Fine, he shot me. I don't care. I'm not going after him. End
Mm.
up in backwater town, like tumbleweeds everywhere. This Western saloon type. Sunny Smiles coming up to you. I'm going to take you on a great adventure. Here's a rifle. Cool. I'm going to run into the pub. I'm going to kill everyone. Oh, those are the powder gangers? I'm going to go side with them. Why not? Sounds fun. The guy talked to me like shit. He's dead now, too. I'm just going to wander around, do whatever I want, and nothing can stop me. And the game just has to accommodate that. The plot line moves on regardless. You can pick letters off people's dead bodies that give you a rough idea of where to go, who to talk to, and you can just keep doing it. You can kill everyone if you want, and the game will still give you a story. Player agency. Where is that in a Bethesda game?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, you're not wrong. I don't know what to say. Obsidian are a very good studio. Made some very good stuff.
And
I
then
really
they
enjoyed
made the
the
Outer
Outer Worlds,
Worlds, which
for
was
example.
pretty good.
Hmm.
But where in the fuck is Outer Worlds 2?
Well, it's on the roadmap, isn't it? I think I heard it was coming at some point.
Hopefully it doesn't
Who knows?
become a live service game.
But didn't they remaster the first? Didn't they do a remaster of the first
The
game? I'm pretty sure.
Spacer's Choice Edition.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it was
Was it needed? No.
basically the same game, but it runs at
No.
60 on console now.
Yeah. Great.
And they ported it to PC for some reason. Oh, you get the Revenge on Gorgon DLC, whatever the fuck that was called.
I think I had it on. It came out on PC at the same time though. I had it on PC.
Weird.
I bought it from CD Keys.
Just rubbing my hands together.
Yeah. I distinctly remember. Yeah, murder on. Is it Murder on Gorgon? Whatever it's called.
Some
That
slop
was
like that.
that was okay DLC, I suppose. Not as good as the main game.
The most memorable part of the Outer Worlds, genuinely, is where you disobey the autopilot, decide to fly the ship yourself, and it goes into the sun. No game has ever had a sun ending quite like that.
Well, there's quite a few ways you can get a like instant game over on there through story mechanics, which is quite nice. They give you the option to just do that, whereas like you wouldn't get that because that's like it is also kind of a no, but eventually yes, right? Because if you actually want to complete the game, unless you accept that as the canonical ending, and you go, yep, that's right, fair enough. When we're flown to the sun, that's it. Uninstall.
That's it. Game over. It's like in
Credits
Stan.
roll.
It's like in
Roll the
Stan.
credit.
It's like in fucking Stanley Parable, the broom closet ending. Do you like
Or-
the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite. You just stay in there. Game resets forcibly. Then you get told off. You go to the serious room, and he tells you to actually play the game. But you disobey him anyway and keep jumping off a building. He can't stop you.
No.
Even fucking Stanley Parable got a deluxe super edition like a year ago. What did they add? More endings to a
Probably
game that was
there wasn't
basically a
enough.
source mod from like 15 years ago.
Yeah, but you can't argue with the success, though, can you? I suppose.
I suppose not.
And it's not a game that I have in my Steam library. I must admit.
It's in mine.
No,
Then I have
it
the
didn't get
most.
me.
I have the most eclectic Steam library of anyone I've ever met. 500 games, 400 of which are complete slop. Of which I've
Yeah,
played about 17 of them.
that's the beauty of a Steam library, though.
Always buying Steam games because they're like
Never
a
playing.
pound on sale. Never playing them. Which
It's
leads
like,
me on to my next topic.
mm,
What are you playing right now, Will?
what am I playing right now?
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna be disappointed.
You
But
say
I'll start with
Starfield again, I swear to God.
so the Starfield DLC Shattered Space recently came out,
Uh,
and unfortunately I'm on like my fourth new game plus, so I don't have a lot of credits or really good items or armor or ships or anything. You do get like some small stuff, and there's like one mechanic that you end up carrying over. But basically, I realised that I'm going into this bit where I have really high level enemies. I don't have a gun that's good enough, and I don't have enough credits or medi packs to be able to do the DLC. So I've kind of almost soft locked myself out of just being able to jump straight into the DLC. So currently I need to spend a couple hours getting some good gear and credits so that I can buy enough medical supplies to get through the DLC, which is a little bit annoying, but it's kind of my own creation. Prior to that, though, before I let you jump in and criticize the Starfield DLC bit, I've been playing Crusader Kings 3 again, which is a big strategy map game. I'm sure you know of it, but in particular the Game of Thrones mod. I think it's made by the same people that made the one for Crusader Kings 2 that I really enjoyed. And in the third one, they've recently had an update, the 0.33 update, or it might be 0.332 now, I think. But basically, they've recently added dragons in. So I do my normal playthrough of playing as House Mormont, which is obviously like a tiny island with two provinces, and trying to get the Mormonts as far as I want to take them. And recently, I've got to the point where I've taken the whole of Westeros and the whole of the bit of Pentos and Essos and that bit that is currently in the game. So I've just spent a lot of time doing that.
that's Game of Thrones, right? Westeros?
Yeah. So it's a Game of Thrones mod. So it's a total conversion mod, basically, for that game.
Is it more pleasant than Season 8?
Yes, it is, because you start from you can. There's lots of different periods that you can start from. I chose to start from basically just before the Game of Thrones books start. So none of the stuff that happens in Game of Thrones actually happens, which is nice.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. Season 8 never happened.
I have a question, though.
Mm.
Why would you play Starfield 4 times?
Okay. So
You
part
have
of
the floor.
yeah. Okay. Well, I guess you sort of have to understand. There might be minor spoilers in this particular monologue, but
Skip to the time code on screen if you don't want to learn about Starfield.
but basically you have to understand that completing the game and going through the portal at the end and completing the game isn't the end of the game. So certain threads of the story still carry on in your new game plus, and some of your relationships, in a sense, carry on as well. So it was more of a morbid curiosity to see how a few different completions of the game would affect the story and the player interactions. And it's sort of by the time I'm in this one, which is like my fourth new game plus, it really does tail off. So two of them were literally speed ran. So what you can do when you restart is because you now are already like imbued with this knowledge of how the game plays out. You can then, when you're reborn, if you like, you can actually skip like 95% of the main story and go straight to you need this last thing from the moon or Mars or wherever it is, and then you can effectively expedite the whole main game. It doesn't like force you to play through. You get the choice. So basically, that's why I have 4 new game pluses.
Skipping 95% of Starfield does seem like the ideal way to play it.
Maybe I give you my save then, one of my saves from where my new game plus save, and then you can just start it from there. Take you about 3 or 4 hours, maybe.
I am a little bit bitter about Starfield, to be honest with you. So
Okay.
I got a review code for Shattered Space, and I redeemed it on the wrong fucking account.
Account where you didn't have Starfield, it let you redeem it.
So I'll never know how fucking Shattered Space plays out, and I'm too embarrassed to ask for another code.
Well, I don't know either yet, because like I say, I'm about 20 minutes in. So.
We did have a review or a first impressions piece go out, and the guy who did it, our staffer Joey, who liked Starfield, didn't really care for Shattered Space. Said it's just more of the same.
I thought. Sorry to interject. I thought that the DLC would be quite interesting, purely for the fact that the faction that it's based around is like very mysterious and not actually fleshed out in the main game. So I figured that there might be enough there for them to go on to make it worthwhile. So that's a bit disappointing too, unfortunately.
Bethesda does it again. Horse armor for everyone.
Yep.
Speaking of industry trends that don't go well towards the consumer, what about Nintendo, huh?
No, that's fine. You can talk about the Palworld thing, but you've not told me what you're playing at the minute.
Oh yes. See, you're on top of the schedule.
Right.
Look at that.
I've got the bullet points as well. You sent them to me.
There you go. I think ahead. One of us has to. What am I playing? What am I playing at the moment? I'm playing through Sonic Frontiers. It's okay.
Okay.
It's
I mean, there's
fine. So I went to Sonic Symphony again a few weeks ago. It's basically a big rock show where they do all the music, symphony first, and then a rock band live show after of all the music in the Sonic games. It's pretty good, pretty fun. And a lot of the music was in Sonic Frontiers, a game I bought. I bought it on PS5 when it came out. I bought it again on Steam a couple of weeks ago to have it on the Steam Deck, and it's just okay. It's a lot of running around doing nothing, a lot of busy work. But I'm just sort of chipping away at it to see if it actually gets good. See what the allure is.
That's the thing, isn't it? There's always a 50-50 chance that you're playing a Sonic game.
It's true. It's true. I'm also playing through Hitman, World of Assassination. So the first Hitman, as in the first of the reboot trilogy, Hitman 2, Hitman 3, Freelancer Contracts, whatever the fuck it's called now. The big collection, live service bullshit with the 3 main campaigns. Got it on the cheap, and I quite like it. And I like the Hitman games. I liked Blood Money. I actually like Absolution. It's not a very good Hitman game, but it was enjoyable enough when I was like 15 when it came out. I don't think I'd like it now, but I bought it on CD keys. I bought it on CD keys, guys, for £1. So we'll see if it makes back the price of that shitty Greg's filter coffee that burns your tongue and tastes like shit.
Not the other crap coffee is available as well.
That was just the first one that came into my head, to be honest.
On buying games from CD Keys for £1, I actually very recently picked up Freedom Fighters for £1 on CD Keys. Once again, a game I had no idea came out on PC. Buyed it for the GameCube. Very good game.
I thought Freedom Fighters was a fucking Vita game, or is that Freedom Wars I'm thinking of?
No, Freedom Fighters is like a third-person shooter, like squad-based shooter.
Is it like Mercenaries?
Yeah, like a much earlier version of Mercenaries,
Oh god.
where the Reds invade America, New York, and
Just
you're
like what's gonna happen in real life.
just like real life. Yep.
Who knew that Homefront the Revolution was a true story?
Oh, God, what a game!
Remember that one?
What a game! I forced myself to play through 75% of that so I could play the inbuilt version of Time Splitters that's in that game.
Was it worth it?
No. I should have just got an emulator.
You know you can technically
um,
play Time Splitters on Xbox now. It's on Game Pass, I think.
oh, is it? Okay.
The
Well,
the two and then Future Perfect.
I will say the Homefront: The Revolution was at least 50% better than when I got it when it very first came out. So it's
I
gone from like a
didn't
2 to a 3 out of 10,
I
which is
didn't
great.
mind I didn't mind the original game apart from the fact it was a Call of Duty ripoff.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, lots of busy work in that as well, but still.
The only other game I'm playing at the moment, I guess aside from Silent Hill 2, which I am gonna see through
Mm.
because I want to see Pyramid Head. I want to see it for myself and see if I'm wrong.
Got to be done.
Tune in a couple weeks' time and see if I keep my promise. I probably didn't. But I'm also playing through Space Marine 2.
Okay.
I got Space Marine 2 for review. Didn't review it because I don't have time. Somebody else reviewed it instead, which is all good. And I like it, but I don't love it. And I've come to the conclusion anyone who's a similar age to me, who grew up with the first Space Marine, so I was 13 when Space Marine came out, who now supposedly loves the Saber Space Marine 2, is probably a little bit nostalgia blind and a bit biased. It's by the guys that did World War Z.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Saber on the Swarm engine, and it looks pretty, and it sounds good, and it has an okay story and okay characterization, and it's nice and brief. It's like 8 hours, but to play it is a slog. Genuinely, Relic Entertainment made the original game. It was a little bit more free flowing. You know, that kind of like peak Gears of War era for like cover shooters.
Yep.
And then Space Marine 2 is just, we're going to throw 1,000 enemies at you at the same time. Here's a counter button that works half the time. Good luck. I'm going to finish it. But I went from being, I'm so excited it's going to be my game of the year, played 3-4 hours, got like halfway through and thought, not loving this so far, which is very disappointing.
Fortunately, that happens more often than we care to admit, but it's not something that I've been tempted to play, I must admit.
Maybe that's just us getting older. You know, games have to hold they have to hold our
Maybe.
attention more because we have such little free time, and we're putting unreal expectation on the fact that we get 2 hours a night to play games. When we were younger, we could play games all night and every day, but now not anymore.
I mean, yeah, that's true, and I don't know if you did watch my video on not that I'm plugging, no, far from it.
You can plug all you want, man.
On Fallout London, right?
I saw the initial video. I didn't
like,
see the Let's Play series.
well, the video I made right at the end is probably the most pertinent one, but basically it was a case of like the game, like I don't feel as though, if you like, the game respects my time, therefore I don't have time for it, therefore I'm going to move on and play something else that I will enjoy.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, didn't you do like 10 episodes before that?
Yeah, I did. I gave it like a good 10 hours of pure gameplay and then made the call to try and like, I really want to give this a fair shot because I think it should be really good. But yeah, and then that was it for me, unfortunately.
It's like where people were telling me, we had a review go up earlier in the week of a game called Metaphor Refantasio, and it's essentially like an Atlas Persona game, but it's a bit,
Oh, JRPG, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the reviewer that did it for our site, literally it was like 150 hours to beat it. And that just made
Wow.
me want to scream inside. I don't have 100 hours to do anything,
Yes, that
let alone
is.
play a dialogue heavy JRPG with repetitive combat, where it was getting 9s and 10s across the board, but everyone was saying that actually playing it as a game wasn't very fun. They were in there for the ride. I mean, at that point, it's just a really, 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 really long visual novel with occasional turn based combat.
I mean, don't knock turn-based combat. I think it
I
can be
hate
done
turn
really
based
well.
combat.
Well, I don't.
Did you ever read my
Agreed.
article about how much I hate turn based combat?
Yeah, yeah, I did actually.
What did you think of that article? Because I think I'm still right.
No, I don't agree. I think, I have different wants and moods and gameplay styles, and yeah, sometimes I want to go on Left 4 Dead and pop some zombies, but other times I just want to have a nice relax and mess around with some really like deep RPG system that lets me summon some demigod, and I just have to go. I just get to sit there and watch it unleash havoc. So I don't think it's. I think there are a place for lots of different types of mechanics, but they have to be. They still have to be good enough, right? Um,
The
and
closest to a JRPG, a game I ever liked was a game called Catherine. That was a fun game.
I do know the game.
And
Yeah.
that was basically just a puzzle game where you play as a guy who gets turned into a sheep who has to try and avoid being eaten by a monstrous version of his girlfriend as he climbs a big tower. While he gets down bad with the psycho, ignoring his slightly weird girlfriend. And then there was a DLC where there was a third girl I never played. So
Third girl. No,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. They
Not
they,
know
they
that.
made a new version called like Full Body Edition, and there was a third girl, probably also called Catherine, but I don't know.
Catherine too.
Catherine 3, baby.
Yeah. Okay. No, didn't know
Speaking
that.
of Japan and JRPGs,
Hmm.
Nintendo suing
Oh,
Palworld.
you've done it. You made the transition. Good job.
The only transition I'll ever complete.
Oh gosh.
You feel bad for laughing at that one, but you find it funny.
Well, if it's funny, it's funny, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you feel bad or not.
That's what we do on this show. See you next week.
That's right. Mic drop. Um, so they are. I see. I didn't know about this. Not the transition. I didn't know about the Palworld thing. I mean, it's been. I would say probably expected, right? Not a surprise.
Took their
Um,
fucking time.
yeah, I think the amount of. I think how long it's taken.
Oh,
Probably the big
seven,
one.
eight, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
For them to be like, you made Pokemon with guns, did you? Well, we made Pokemon and we don't have any guns. And the exact patent, because it's patent infringement, not IP infringement. That's a really interesting part. Essentially, they sat
Oh,
down and
okay.
said, all right, we'll give you that the character designs are very similar. That's by the by. But you have to make sphere like objects to capture pocket monsters, which is kind of like Pokemon.
I mean, no one's saying that it isn't, but it's also not the same.
No.
No.
I hope Nintendo lose.
So the issue is basically the Pokeball slash House Sphere bit. That's the bit that they're focused on, is it?
Correct.
Because the whole thing about like having like humanoid or whatever esque like controllable monsters, if you like Pocket monsters, right? That's not to me that, and a lot of people made that argument, but they're in all sorts of things, like summonable little creatures, I guess, that either fight for you or do tasks for you. Like like that's a established trope, right? I don't think the Pokemon Company or Nintendo own any of that. So that would have been really awkward, or that would have been really difficult, I think, if they'd have gone on that premise. But yeah, the spheres and Pokeballs. I mean, yes, that to me is the thing that they have most in common. But I still don't think it's enough.
The fact that the games don't play anything like each other either.
No, I mean, Power World is probably closer to like Pokemon Arceus, right? in terms of the running around, and you throw your Pokemon out in like the real world, or like the real world of the game, I suppose, so to speak, and they do small tasks for you. But other than that, there isn't that same crossover.
No.
I don't think.
And the company went and did that 1-2 punch by shutting down Ryujinx completely. That's gone now.
That was a bit of not a bit of a disappointment, quite a big disappointment. I think not that it was something that I have used a lot, or have used recently at all, but like just quite a feat, right? A feat of software in order to be able to emulate the is it the X1 chip or whatever is in the Switch.
The Tegra X1, that's right.
Yeah, that's it. The same thing that's in my Nvidia Shield that I watch TV on.
From 10
Oh,
years ago.
TV. Yeah, from 10 years ago. And obviously you could have it on your Steam Deck and your Ally and all the rest of it, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that is a loss, but that for me is far more, I guess, in keeping and what you would expect from Nintendo. I think the Palworld thing is a bit more egregious.
It's
Personally.
a shame because, 10 years ago when Nintendo were on the back foot, the Wii U had come out. Colossal fucking failure.
Good console, though. Good console,
I had a
right?
Wii U. I thought it was okay. I bought maybe 3 games forever. Then I got my PC about 2 weeks later.
So when Breath of the Wild came out, I actually bought a Wii U to play Breath of the Wild on, and I played most of it on the controller. And I thought it was great, by the way, because it was like having a Switch that you could only have in your house, and the controls were nicer. So I actually had a great time with
The
that Wii
Switch
U.
controls are not good.
No, but
Joy-Con,
I'm saying the Wii U is better though. It's from just a controller perspective.
it's a more ergonomically designed controller,
Mm.
definitely. But Nintendo were on the back foot. They were like the underdogs of that generation. They came out. Wii U flopped really fucking hard. Then they turned around and went, okay, I made the Switch. Runaway success. They're back on top. One of the best selling consoles of all time. Up there with the PS5. Up there with the Wii. They're doing really well. And now they're kind of like the bullying company again. The vicious, bloodthirsty company again. And I think they deserve to lose the lawsuit against Palworld developers. I think they're going to go after people now that want to use gameplay footage in their streams that they were trying to do fucking 12 years ago, 10 years ago with their
Mm-hmm.
creator program bullshit. And loads of people were saying, fuck this, I'm just not going to fucking play Nintendo games. You're not going to win. I think if you win in like a legal, technical way, if you are the victor, you still don't win in the hearts and minds of people that play video games. And that's when you're going to get anti-consumer backlash. That's when once loyal patrons, once loyal, what would you call them, fans of the series, of the hardware, whatever, they're going to fucking go somewhere else. For me, 2014, bought a PC. Never look back. Own a Switch, don't use it. So there you go.
I think that what you've described is a lot more difficult to penetrate in the way for Nintendo than it is generally. I think Nintendo have quite a tight, like, vice grip on their audience in a way where they're probably not really that affected by it and actually don't really care. I mean, if you're still buying the Pokemon games now, because they're basically the same thing, right, forever,
That
and
run
there's
like
like
absolute
2,000 of
shit.
them. But yeah, and that as well, unfortunately. I don't really think you care about their consumer practices. Would
It's
be my rebuttal to that.
it's
Not that I disagree, by the way.
it's the Disneyification of it.
Yes, absolutely.
You become too big to fail.
Mm.
I think Nintendo as well, they kind of have a primary market around children, young teenagers, and parents of young children and teenagers. But for everyone
Yeah,
else outside of those fringe brackets, they don't really have a whole lot to hold on to.
they do. I think there's a sizable, like, what I would call nostalgia crowd as well in there.
One day the good faith is going to run out, though.
And it's more likely to be that crowd, I would suggest.
Me
But
too.
mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much more to say on the topic. I don't think. Yeah, I think it would be a shame if they were to win because not that I've played Palworld for a while now since it has come out, but I did enjoy to play it. And they did a lot of things that Pokemon haven't been willing to do. I don't mean the guns, but I mean like that type of gameplay,
What, you didn't
right?
want
Where
to
you
see Blastoise with a Gyat?
actually, he's got a gun. He's
Pow,
already got one.
pow, motherfucker.
He's got two cannons on his back.
He's strapped, boy.
Yeah. So, but Nintendo have been um, no, not lucky because not luck is a very successful previously with lawsuits. So we'll see. Watch this space.
Well, we're in our kind of wrapping up period now. I wanted to ask you.
Mm.
You saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, I did. I did see it.
What did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine?
So I actually had to think about this today before we came on because I obviously knew you were going to ask this. I thought you might ask this exact question, and you obviously want to talk about superhero movies in general, which I have a very poor outlook on. I'll say that from the beginning. Um, the natural comparison is to the previous Wolverine films and the previous Deadpool films, and I don't think it was better than either of them. Although I don't necessarily expect the third film in a series to be better than its previous, I must admit. And I think the overarching thing for me is if you take out the few scenes that almost seem like they were built for the memes or for the trailer, as I probably would have said it before, then it's kind of a little bit flat, but still a like but still a very good superhero film. But also like just a average to good film is where I sit on it. I don't regret going and seeing it. I didn't have a bad time.
I'll tell you a film I do regret going and seeing, and a film I did
I
have a
know
bad
I know what
time
you're
on.
gonna say. I know what you're gonna
Fucking
say.
Joker 2.
Yeah.
Joker Folie do, more like Joker Cock-a-Doodoo. My god, what a piece of shit movie.
I'm interested to know why it's so bad because I often this might out me in a few ways than others. But if I want to go and watch a film, I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it or not. My rule of thumb is I will go onto the Guardian's website and I will see what score they've given it. And generally, if it's less than a 3, I will go and I'll be like, yep, I'm going to go and watch that. You know, if I thought I want to go and watch it and it's less than a 3 on Guardian, I'll go and see it. And if it's higher than a 3 and I want to go and watch it, I probably won't go. I'll probably wait until it comes out so I can watch it at home rather than going to the cinema. And obviously, everyone has trashed Joker 2, Electric Boogaloo, not just the Guardian. So I'm interested to know what the issues were with it because I've seen people being really disappointed, but I haven't read any of the articles, so I don't really understand as to why.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I refuse to put more effort into explaining Joker 2 than Todd Phillips did writing the movie.
Okay.
Essentially, it's a musical without many
You've
good
lost me
songs.
already.
Yes. Without many good songs, that's not told very well. It's also a courtroom drama that blatantly ignores how the court system works.
Okay.
Imagine an action movie, a character study that portrays the character, complete character assassination, a complete 180 from one film to the other. I'm convinced by watching Joker Folie do that Todd Phillips, the guy who made the fucking Hangover movies and Due Date and nothing else of consequence until Joker, let's be real, came out. I am convinced that Joker was a fucking fluke. He accidentally made a really good movie because the weekend before he wrote Joker, he sat down, he watched The King of Comedy, he watched Dog Day Afternoon, he watched Taxi Driver, and he watched The Dark Knight, and he thought, fuck it. I'm going to ring up Joaquin Phoenix. We're going to make an amalgamation of this. But with Joker Folie à Deux, he thought, hey, Joker made $1 billion. Everyone loved it, at least compared to the sequel. Everyone enjoyed it. I don't need to copy anyone's homework this time. I'm going to do my own thing. Lady Gaga's going to be in it because why not? Joaquin Phoenix had a dream, and apparently his dream was Joker is going to be a musical now, so let's make that. I'm going to ignore what anyone from DC tells me to do. I'm going to do my own thing, and it's going to be great. And it came out, everyone hated it. Universally reviled. Lower fucking scores than Madam Web. Fucking Madam Web.
Mm-hmm.
How is that even possible?
Well, with Joker too.
Joker 2. The joke's on us all along.
It is. It is if you paid to go and see it. Yeah, I think that's one of them.
No one's laughing now. There were 3 people in the cinema, excluding my party, on opening night. People already knew that shit was gonna be trash. There were more people to watch the Terrifier movies back to back than to watch fucking Joker 2 opening night.
But you still went. So
Well, I didn't directly give Todd Phillips any money. I had Limitless at the Odeon. I paid the Odeon, technically bought a ticket, but not really.
mm-hmm.
That technicality is the reason I didn't go all Mel Gibson in South Park and politely demand my money back.
Well, yeah, I imagine there have been people doing that though.
I don't blame them.
Mm.
Our closing thoughts at the end of our first episode.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's an action-packed one.
Yeah, it's been quite good. I don't think we necessarily kept on topics all the time, but we did our best.
This is your time. You can now tell the listeners in more detail than the beginning who you are, what you do, where they can find you, and why they should check you out. You have the floor.
Well, yeah, I mean, first off, probably shouldn't if you value your time. But if you want to hear more nonsense like I've been talking about today, then it's a great place to find more of that. I don't do any one particular thing a lot of. I do lots of different things in a variety of different ways, and basically just whatever I feel like doing. And I think it's probably fair to say that my online content and commitment is literally only stuff that I want to do. I don't have any like real self-imposed pressure to play the latest games or produce a particular series or type of gaming series. I'll do stuff because I am genuinely really interested in it. Or sometimes because I want to prove a point as well. The only like prolonged series is probably the Game of the Year series, which is quite unique because it's only games that I've played are allowed to be on that list. So you won't get Assassin's Creed, Samurai Shadows, whatever it's called, on this year or next year, or whatever it is that it comes out, because I will not be playing it. So that also exists. That's
Skull
also a thing.
and Bones, Game of the Year every year. The only quadruple A game.
Yes, the synctuple A game.
I will say I do quite like your new format where you're doing the pieces to camera. Those are cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a case of I just like trying new ways of delivering my videos. Some will be edited, some won't be edited. Usually, the more time I spend editing them, the less views they get. Not that I'm that bothered about views, as is probably quite evident by the fact I've got like 1,400 or 1,500 videos on there. But like literally, if you want to spend a whole year watching videos that I've made, I think it's almost possible now. So that's nice. And I started my channel in 2009. There are very few channels that are older than mine at this point, so I have a sort of lure of antiquity to me, almost like kind of being like founding fathers of YouTube kind of vibes going on. The only person I'm subscribed to that's older than me on the platform is Ashens, so that's nice.
Yeah, he's slowed down in recent years now.
Well, everyone goes through peaks and troughs, don't they? I actually met Ashens this year, which was very nice.
What'd you mean
Very nice
to?
man. I went to the Timeless Gaming Convention in Bury, and Ashens was there doing a talk, and he was talking about piracy, Italian piracy in the 1980s. Very niche, but obviously the stuff that he does talk about he's extremely passionate about. So he tends to go down the rabbit hole, and had like spoken to people that were in the bit like in the working for like effectively their trading standards in Italy at the time. And it was more just to like sort of poke fun, I guess, on how the because there wasn't the same copyright laws there and all the rest of it, and they were basically allowed to get away with just straight off ripping games and then printing them to new cartridges and then having just totally new artwork and manuals and all the rest of it. So yeah, it was an interesting talk in a very like niche kind of special interest kind of way, which is great because that's sort of what I expect, what I would have wanted and expected from an Ashens talk. I believe that's probably the same thing he does wherever he goes, but not the Italian piracy in the 1980s, but that kind of real specific deep dive rabbit hole kind of approach.
I met
Um,
Ashens in 2014. Long
yes,
time ago now.
you showed me the picture of you and him together, I believe.
Yes,
I remember seeing it.
many years ago.
And yeah, it was a really good time. I would probably go again. It's a bit not the closest to get to, but it's probably like the first gaming convention thing that I've been to. So that was quite cool. And I think I've probably finished in terms of what I was going to say. I like RPGs mainly, so that's mainly what I'll do.
See, you always strike me as odd because you like RPGs and you're a big football fan. Normally, those two things don't really correlate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like. Yes, yeah, I do. I do watch football most weekends. I do play a Final Fantasy game most years, and I do listen to electronic music. So yeah, there you go.
So, what you're telling me is your channel is the spiritual home of RPGs.
That's what I would say. For me, anyway, it kind of is, right? That's where I would go.
I think you should review more sauce.
More sauce,
Yes.
barbecue sauce. There's a new mayo that's come out for Halloween actually, which is Monster Munch pickled onion mayo.
The
So I might
sauce
be able
review. It's $1 million idea.
to review all my favorite sauces. Yeah.
You gotta do it with turkey dinosaurs, though. That's the only caveat.
Has to complement Turkey Dinosaur. If it doesn't complement the Turkey Dinosaur, it's not gonna pass the test.
I wonder if turkey dinosaurs are even around anymore.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're still around. Yeah.
Such
He
a,
says like he's had them tonight for dinner. No.
such a bottom tier meat.
Well, yeah.
I'm a turkey dinosaur, man. God.
But where can you find me? Well, it's Van Berman on YouTube. I think literally my URL is like YouTube/channel/Van Berman. So,
Link on screen and in description.
Okay. Link will be somewhere. Yeah.
Remember that time you shot me in DayZ?
Yeah, I mean that clip still exists on my channel. So
Maybe we'll have a
I don't
link
know
to
if
that video somewhere. Who knows?
I could probably get you that. I could probably dig that out for you if you want to add it in. But it wasn't me that shot you. I don't think. I wanted you to be involved, and it was other people that shot you. So
The death of me.
yeah, I think that's what the video is called actually.
An alias from many years gone by.
Yeah. The previous many incarnations ago, alias.
I'm gonna keep changing hats until the right one fits.
Why not?
You've kind of been here from the start.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, there you go. Like we did a podcast for the 1 year anniversary of the, I guess, like the relaunch or the proper full gaming launch of my channel. So yeah, there you go.
Do you remember?
We won't put the links to that though. We'll let you keep some dignity. Gosh.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Do you have any closing remarks? Your time as well. Don't forget.
Do I have any closing remarks? My God.
Yeah.
I hope you people like this show.
All two of you.
You better want more of it.
Uh,
Because guess what? I'm making an RSS feed. Find it on Spotify. Find it on Apple Music. Find it on Deezer. Listen to it at the back of a restaurant off of some sketchy Italian place while you're trying to go through the bins to get spaghetti.
Why not? It'd be better, by the sounds of it, it'd be better than going and watching Joker 2 anyway. So,
I'm pretty sure Gallstones are better than Joker 2.
yeah, probably.
That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you soon.